Hi there, today I'm going to discuss chess strategy. One of the most important things in chess strategy is development of pieces. Everybody tells you development is important. How important is that? What happens if you don't develop your pieces at the right time? And what happens if you lose moves early in the game? Losing a move means making a move which is not essential. These are the things that I'm going to discuss by showing you the game between Paul Murphy and Duke Carl. This is a very famous game where black lost a move in the opening and white builds his advantage based off of that single loss of move by black. So let's look at the game. White played e4, e5, knight f3, d6, d4. Now white is attacking the pawn on e5. He already has two pressures, this knight and the d4 pawn, and black played bishop g4. His idea in playing this bishop to g4 is that he has just developed a piece. He not only developed the piece, but he has pinned this knight from moving. So if the knight moves, white will lose his queen. So if white captures on e5, black will not capture back on e5 because doing so will only lose the pawn. After queen d8, king d8, knight e5, white will win a pawn. He will attack the bishop and also this pawn. So instead, after white captures on e5, black is planning to capture on f3. So after bishop f3, queen f3, de5, it's still equal material. So this is what happened in the game. But in the process, pay close attention to how black developed his bishop and gave that bishop away for this knight. He has moved his bishop to g4, and after d5 he captured it on f3 and he brought the queen outside. So eventually what happened is that he lost the move. He developed his bishop, he gave up his bishop, he helped in white's development. Black still has many undeveloped pieces while white has a queen that's already developed, and now he has another move to develop. So he played bishop c4, attacking the pawn on f7. Now black plays knight f6, the normal looking move. He has developed the piece, he has defended this pawn on f7, but white swings the queen back to b3, where he does a double attack on f7 and also on b7. So he's threatening bishop f7 check as well as queen b7. Now black can't defend the f7 pawn by playing queen d7, because if he did that, he will lose the pawn on b7 and he will also lose the rook on a8. There is no way he can defend that rook because playing queen c6 will only give bishop b5 to white and he will lose his queen. So this is not possible. Instead, he played queen e7, defending this pawn on f7, and now if white captures on b7, he will not lose the rook on a8 because he can play queen b4 check. Now if white captures this queen on b4, bishop b4, bishop d2, bishop d2, knight d2, he has protected the pawn on e4. White still has a pawn advantage, but he has to be very patient and try hard to win this game, although he has clearly winning advantage. But white saw a better advantage in this position. Instead of capturing the pawn on b7, he understood that he has a huge development advantage and he has to take use of that. And he played knight c3. His idea is that he's preventing queen b4 check, so black will not be able to exchange the queens by putting a check there. And he's now threatening to capture on b7. So black has to lose another move to save this pawn now. And the only way to do that is playing c6. You already see it's really hard for black to play this game. He has got many undeveloped pieces. This rook, knight, the bishop, and rook are all stuck. And the queen is blocking the path of the bishop, so there's no easy way for this to come out. So black is practically playing many pieces down. And white has got really free pieces, and he is improving the positions of the pieces, so he has a huge development advantage. Now, Even now, black cannot develop his knight to d7 because doing that will just lose the pawn on b7. And it's also attacking the c6 pawn and the rook on a8, and it's really losing for black. So instead, what black did is that he played b5. His idea is that he is trying to gain a tempo by this move. He's thinking that white has to move this bishop and then he can develop his knight to d7. But white gave a good sacrifice here. He knows that he has developed all his pieces and black is practically playing many pieces down, so he can safely give his knight for 2 pawns. And he thought through this move and he had given the sacrifice, which is a really good idea. Now black played knight bd7 and white castled on the queen side, putting more pressure on the pins. Notice that both of these knights are pinned. They cannot move. If this knight moves, the queen will be captured. This knight can't move because there's a check. So, and this knight is being attacked by the bishop and the rook. So black has to defend this knight. And the only piece that's not in the game is this rook. So white gives another sacrifice and swings this rook back into the game. Now he's putting more pressure on this rook, and this knight is still pinned, so he's now threatening to capture on d7 with the rook or with the bishop. So black moved queen e6. He's freeing up this knight. And if white wants to win, he can capture this bishop on f6, and then he can capture on d7 and he can win the game. But he chose to do a spectacular finish. He captured on d7 with the bishop, and after knight d7, he played queen b8. He gave up his queen. Wonderful move to play for checkmating the black king. So all of this happened just because of the single move advantage that white had, because black played bishop g4 and gave up the bishop for the knight, after which white got a huge development advantage. So that's how big this development advantage can be. That's it for now. See you guys later. Thanks. Bye-bye.